and welcome to the Turtle Tracks podcast. This is your host, Brian Van Hooker, and I'm here with Anna Chavez and Griffin Hansen, the duo of artists behind the TMNT historical marker in Dover, New Hampshire. Both of you, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Happy to be here.
So I guess before we get into, so you guys are behind the historical marker in Dover, New Hampshire, which I recently saw for the first time during Portsmouth MiniCon. But I guess before getting into that, I would love to hear about who you guys are. Anna, let's start with you. I know you're an artist. Talk to me a little bit about, your relationship with Ninja Turtles, how you became an artist, all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been an artist for as long as I can remember, but I got into Ninja Turtles around when I was like 14 years old, and that pretty much spawned my effort to get into art school. So I ended up going to Savannah College of Art and Design, and that's where I met my good friend Griffin here. But I have been pursuing concept design for animation, and more recently, I have been exploring sequential art in comic books. So Griffin has always been very, very interested in history and everything to do with his home state of New Hampshire. So when he kind of propositioned me to help him with the Ninja Turtles marker, I was so excited to be a part of it. I loved Ninja Turtles, everything about it, and like I said, it's kind of been what's fueled my endeavors trying to get into animation and comic books.
Cool. Griffin, the same story. What's your background and your relationship with the Turtles?
Everything Anna said was a lie. No. I too am a work in animation, and I'm an animated film director and a writer as well. And yeah, I met Anna at art school. I'm from New Hampshire. I'm from Goffstown, which is about an hour or so to the west of Dover. And yeah, I'm very interested in historic preservation as well as animated filmmaking. And I, like anybody our age, Anna and I are the same age, we sort of grew up loving the Ninja Turtles, or at least knowing who they were. And I think for Anna, it was a little different where she grew up as a fan of it, and I grew up as somebody who lives in New Hampshire, and there's only five things in the whole state to be proud of. And once you get past no sales tax, there's really nothing else. So we were always sort of taught in the realm of great New Hampshire inventions. There's leaving and also the Ninja Turtles. And I thought that that was always something that was pretty cool. Even when you were a kid, you were taught that the Ninja Turtles, those guys are from New Hampshire, and you'd go, "Wow!" And then they follow up. The follow up response would be, "But they moved to Massachusetts once they got famous," which is what any smart New Hampshire person does.
So, did you currently reside in New Hampshire when this whole project started, or no?
Yeah, I lived in New Hampshire my whole life, and I only moved a few months ago. But when I was doing the project, yeah, I lived in New Hampshire. And the state of New Hampshire, and I don't know if we want to get into it yet, but the state of New Hampshire has a historical marker program, which is funded by the government. And I've always been very involved in that and helping them put up markers across the state for more unconventional pieces of state history. And this was just one of them.
Before the turtle thing, what were some other things that you like? What were some other markers that you had a hand in?
My great grandfather's name was Frank Mafera, and he was the guy who invented chain link fencing. And he didn't invent, well, I suppose he invented how to weave chain link fencing, so he made it mass marketable. And that's something that my family has always been very proud of because, again, New Hampshire. So there's not much else to be proud of. And I think that was I know for a fact that was the first marker I did, and I worked with the state on that. And it's really quite simple. I don't know if we want to talk about the process, but essentially all that happens is until recently, you would find a subject that you thought was important enough to be commemorated by one of these aluminum poles, and they would ask you to get a signature from, I believe, 20 or 25 people from New Hampshire. And then you'd write a proposal, you'd send it to the state. They'd look at it, they'd make sure that it wasn't, just some thing nobody had ever heard of or wasn't too controversial or anything of the sort. And then it was part of our state's Department of Transportation budget. And as we speak, it's currently on pause. I was actually just talking to the director today. It's on pause right now, but hopefully next year it's going to be back up and moving, and we're going to be seeing some new markers go up. I think that our marker was the second to last one to be erected in New Hampshire. There was one that was put up this year, and so we're the most recent one, which is pretty cool as of the
Okay.
recording of this.
Now, at what point did it occur to either of you that the turtles need a marker and where it should go and all that stuff?
In our state, Amy Dixon, who's the woman in charge of the markers at the New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources, has always stressed the idea to me of history being more than, let's say, churches and cemeteries, if you will. Wanting it to be something that was more, let's move away from granges and meeting houses and churches and more towards things that are going to get not just children, but just a more general public interested in our state's history. What is something that somebody from outside of New Hampshire would be aware of and would make them want to learn more? For instance, there's one in Lincoln, New Hampshire, for the first alien abduction in America, the first noted alien abduction, which was, I guess, in Lincoln. And so that was something that she told me. And what I immediately said to her was, why don't we do one for the Ninja Turtles then? Because that's not only something that's very important to American culture, of course, as evidenced by your basement there, but it's also something that, as an artist, Anna and I take very seriously, which is promoting the importance of arts as a part of American culture, but also as just something fun. You know, I mean, it's a lot more fun to put this up than a marker for this is where slaves got auctioned off or something. It's not that one is more important than the other, but it is to say that it invites a new chasm of the populace to be interested in history and sort of remove it from this idea of something you'd only be forced to learn about in a textbook. And I think that that's a really interesting way to engage with history.
And I was just really excited to get to talk more about Ninja Turtles to someone. So.
That's true.
I feel like there's two kinds of historical markers. There's like, I mean, I'm a history guy too, so I mean, maybe I'm an exception here, but like, there's some that you like go and you seek out, right? You're like, oh, I know this happened around here somewhere, and then there's the ones that are like, I'm driving and or walking by. What's that? And I feel like the turtle one is like the former. Like it's one that I at least I know I seeked it out, and I know many other turtle fans have. That you like, we want to know where this thing is, take a look at it, take a picture with it, and all that stuff.
I'd say that's a great assessment. More than anything, I think that it's important to be able to, if you will, imprint a location upon a fact. So I could tell you where the Battle of Bunker Hill was, sure. But if you actually went to Bunker Hill, you engaged with the national park there, you read the signs and went to the monument and so on and so forth, I think would make more of an impression on you. And
Oh yeah.
Not to equate Bunker Hill, for instance, with the Ninja Turtles or anything of the sort, but I think it's really cool that now there's a marker there. So you can hear about how it started in a tiny little house, even though it's not there anymore. But you can hear about how it started in some tiny little neighborhood, in some tiny little town, and say to yourself, yeah, sure. But it's when you actually go to the marker, I believe, and you actually see that this really is just a street. This really is just a place. There's really no pomp and circumstance about it. That hopefully that would inspire people to consider their own roots, which they might see as unremarkable, to be something that can inspire greatness.
Now, when do you think the process? When about approximately when did the process start? Like, how long from like when you have the idea we should do this thing about turtles to it coming a real thing?
Well, I recall Griffin approaching me with the idea right before we were going to leave school. So it was like, what? It was like May probably of 2023, I would say. Something
Yeah,
like that. I think the idea had been bouncing around in his head a little more often, and then he kind of officially brought it up to me and said, like, hey, you're super into Ninja Turtles, so let's kind of put our two levels of expertise together and get this thing going. So
yeah,
I'd say like May, would that be right?
May, but not of 2020. It was 2022.
Oh, was it?
It was the junior year. But the point is that it takes about a year. So it was like, yeah, it was like a year because it went up in November of last year was 2023, right? It's been a long year.
So,
So
I mean, the wheels of government notoriously move pretty slowly. So even a year and a half isn't that long. Like that's pretty good.
well, and it's not just that. We'll talk about the manhole as well, I'm sure, in a little bit. But in the state of New Hampshire, what is really something that they stress is they want 50 years after an event happens before, unless it's a person who dies, it's 5 years. If it's an event, let's say, again, the Battle of Bunker Hill, they'd want to wait until 1780 or whenever it was until they could put up a marker for it.
Oh,
So
okay.
that is, sorry, that was 5 years, but 50 years for an event and 5 years for a person. And in this case, the marker went up in November of 2023, which was the 40th anniversary of the conception of the Turtles. And so we had to appeal to the state because the only time that they would make the exception about a sub 50-year proposal is if it was something that the state itself deemed was of an extreme cultural or historical importance to the state of New Hampshire. And what I think is really very admirable on the side of the state is that instead of just saying to themselves, get the comic book kids out of here, we're talking about George Washington and stuff, they really did take us seriously. And they told us that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were of such important historic importance to New Hampshire that they were going to make the exception of the rule because of the impact that they've had on American culture. And I think that's very telling of how seriously people take art, which I really like.
Was this like a written process, or was this like you had the guys appear in court, like the whole thing?
It was all written. It was all like municipal wheels turning and all that. I don't think did we ever speak to anyone, Anna? I don't think we ever did that.
I don't think we ever spoke. I remember many like CCs and a lot of emails like that were just back and forth about like a lot of the ins and outs of the process.
Yeah.
Which again, to credit how short of a time it actually took to get the marker up with all of the complexities of it, was pretty dang good on the part of the state of New Hampshire.
So what day did it actually get unveiled? I remember I wanted to make that up for that, but I wasn't. It's a bit of a trek for me. It's like 5 hours. So, but what was the day that it went up?
I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, it went up on November 8th, 2023. Thank you, Griffin.
Correct. I don't know if there's any importance to that date. I think we just chose it. I don't remember if there's anything important.
I know they wanted to get it unveiled to the public in November because that was the official month, right, when the Ninja Turtles, Kevin and Peter kind of conceptualized it, was November of 1983, and then it released in 1984.
That's when they did those initial sketches, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely. Supposedly, and there's no and that's the thing, is like that's when they did the sketches, so there's no date. Well, maybe some of your fans will know, but at least if Anna didn't know it, I would assume nobody else does. I don't know.
I'm not great with that stuff, but I know that sometime in 83 was when they did those first two sketches.
Yeah.
And maybe that first group
in November 1983, they were sitting in their living room and they were just messing around with sketches, and that's when those first two of the Ninja Turtles kind of.
And I think that we just chose whatever date the airplane tickets were cheapest for Anna to
come. Yeah, I think so, because I live in Reno, Nevada, so I had to make the flight across country for it.
Oh wow, okay. So you were doing your part from Reno.
I was, yeah.
You ever been to New Hampshire before this?
Nope, never. So I was really excited that was the reason I got to go, of course. And yeah, it was actually really funny. And it was amazing. I remember when we got there, I was kind of half expecting it to be there'll be a couple of people there to see it get unveiled. And it was a great turnout for the day of the unveiling, and not just for our marker, but for also the manhole cover, of course, as well. But I mean, the amount of town support for this, it was just really heartwarming to see as a Ninja Turtles fan, just to see everyone else coming together and being so appreciative of it as well.
Now, so at some point along the process, you guys found out that there was some other project going on. How did that come to your attention? Did it worry you? What happened there?
So in reference to the manhole cover that was you guys were doing the
marker, and the manhole cover was the manhole cover was a totally separate project that had nothing to do with you guys, even though they're 100 feet from each other. It's ridiculous.
Well, if you're a listener, if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't been to Dover, there's Union Street is where the house was, where Laird and Eastman lived, and it isn't there anymore. So if you ever want to go, sorry, it's the house isn't there, sadly, but the lot is. They haven't built anything on it, which is pretty cool. So I believe a gentleman, well, I don't take any of this as fact, but as best I understand it, a gentleman named James Lane was interested in putting in a manhole, literally a sewer grate, which was custom cast at a foundry in, I believe, North Carolina, and he wanted to put it in there. And that's awesome. That's really cool, and it's there, and you can go visit it and take photos. And there's a little cement pad,
It
but
looks fantastic.
yeah, it's really cool. They did a great job, and whoever it was that was sort of behind that. But when you apply for one of these markers in the state of New Hampshire, because it's done by the DOT, they're only allowed to put a marker on a state highway. And luckily, Union Street empties to the west into a state highway. So we had to put our marker, like you said, about 100 or so feet away, just because A, it was what the state's regulations said, and B, it's a hidden location. I think that what's cool about the fact that our two projects sort of coincided the way they did is that if you're driving down, I think it's 103 in New Hampshire or 108, then you see our marker and it kind of like points you in the direction of where the house used to be. And
Yeah.
then naturally you get to go down there and take photos of the manhole and stuff. And it's a bit less crowd. There's a bit less traffic, obviously, because it's not a highway. And when it came to the whole fact that the two projects sort of coincided the way they did, when Anna and I started our project, I had no idea that Mr. Lane was doing what he was doing, even though it's really a cool idea. And eventually, when the state of New Hampshire told Dover that they were putting a marker in Dover, they were like, when? Because we're already doing something. And we kind of just linked up. We decided to put our markers, our commemorative things, if you will, down on the same day. And I give a lot of credit to James for, I don't know what his timeline was, but I give him a lot of credit for pretty much snapping into attention. And when we told him that our marker was going in on the 8th of November, even if it wasn't August or something like that, he was still ready to put it in 3 months. I don't know what his timeline was, so it's really cool that he was able to sort of marry those two events with one another. But they were not. I've seen news articles that say that they were both done by Anna and I, or that they were both done by James, or they were both done by the city or whatever. We had nothing to do with one another. We love them. They're great. It's awesome. But we
We
did
we
not
just
work.
appreciate that they wanted to be like
Yeah,
combined with us on the same day of unveiling for the Ninja
they were
Turtles.
really cool about it. I
Yeah.
appreciate that a lot.
Oh, so you guys were going through the state. The manhole cover went through the city,
Right.
so like the paths never crossed until it was like a few months before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hate to turn your cool Ninja Turtle show into boring state and local politics.
No, I mean that's all.
That's true.
That's all good.
It's true. The two didn't coincide until maybe like August or so.
Okay.
And again,
Yeah.
that's 3 months out. So 3 months out, they found out that we're putting a marker in, and I don't know how long James had been doing his project, but he said okay, and we're going to November, and there it was, and I thought that was really cool of him.
Well, what's cool too, and like, because I just visited it recently, I hadn't seen it before that. Um, was like you're right, like yours is on a major street that like will catch your attention if you're driving by or walking by, whatever. Like you'll see the historical marker. Dover is this tiny little road that unless you live there, you have no reason to go on it.
Mm.
I'm sorry, not, whatever the name of that road
Union Street, yeah.
Yeah.
is this little tiny road that you would have no reason to go down unless you live there. Or you could even also just easily drive by the manhole cover, as cool as it is. You could drive by and not see
It's
it.
in the ground. It's a manhole cover after all. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, it's cool that there's the one that kind of catches your attention, and there's the one that's like, this is precisely this location. So they work well together, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I think James made a great point when we were dedicating them. We had this big speech and everything. It was really very nice, where he said that to him it was like a real life Easter egg. Where you're right, it isn't flashy, and there's not a sign that points to it. There's not a big neon light that points you in the direction. It's just something that you might be walking your dog and you'll go by and you go, what now? What the heck is that? And I think that's cool. I really do appreciate that the state did a marker because it shows that the state has a lot of respect for this part of
Yeah.
our states of our heritage. But I also think that it's really cool that James wanted to do something that was low key and and not big and flashy. So a Viacom owned company can get more recognition that it doesn't need, but that the artists behind the Ninja Turtles could just have this tiny little quiet memorial in a little spot that meant a lot to them. That if you don't know, Peter Laird got married in the backyard of that house to his wife,
But that's cool.
and it's not some big production, it's not some huge show, it's not really on a lot of maps or anything. It's just something you see. It's very low key and it's very respectfully done.
Here's a question. This is like I don't like this is minutia as it gets, but I'm still gonna ask. Like the actual text that explains on the historical marker. Did you guys write that, or was that done by somebody official with a? How does that work?
Anna did it. Anna wrote it all.
Oh,
I wrote it. There was about a week where Griffin said, "All right, we're gonna write it," where I just kind of poured over all of the stuff in my house that had to do with Ninja Turtles, and I was like, "All right, I think this is like the best way to word it." And Griffin can tell you a little bit more, of course, because he's a little more, well versed on the entire process of historical markers. But we had to hit a certain word limit for what could be fit onto the marker. So it was a couple of days of just going back and forth and just making sure that everything was, first of all, grammatically correct, but second of all, that it was fitting all of the requirements, and that it was also, of course, paying homage to the Turtles in the way that we wanted to.
You did a really nice job, because I mean I'm a writer, like that's my job. So like that was like I was focused on like how you sum up 40 years in the whole thing. I can read this. I don't know if you want me to read it or if you want to read it or whatever. But
Sure.
By all means.
In November 1983, while living in Dover, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird created a cast of ninja weapon-wielding turtles during a late-night drawing session. Amused by the absurdity of the idea, the duo developed the story of 4 teenage turtle brothers, Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo. The one-shot comic, published independently by Mirage Studios on Union Street, debuted in 1984. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles soon became a full comic series and ultimately an international multimedia franchise. Which is perfect. It summed it up very nicely.
I think
you should have seen. I wanted to add like an entire 10-page essay to that if I could have.
But I think that's really speaks a lot to Anna's strength there, because she chose for the subject of the marker not to be Ninja Turtles, but the creation. That's the name of the marker, is the creation of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
So even that, like you said, like it could be a huge thing. They fought Bebop and Rocksteady and then Splinter and yada yada yada. It could be all that, but I think that what Anna did very wisely was narrow it down to here's just how it started. Here's just where the seed came from, because frankly, anything that happened after that wasn't confined to the Granite State,
Oh yeah. They went to Massachusetts, as you said.
Yeah, I really just wanted to, well, first of all, just talking about where I came from with Ninja Turtles and how much that ended up inspiring me creating a lot of things down the road. Like I just really wanted that marker to be something that everyone, artists and non-artists included, could look at and go, wow, like Griffin said, like you can start really from anywhere and make an impact as long as you're passionate about it and you've got a good story to tell.
So, Anna, I know you're a huge fan. What is your favorite Turtles thing? Like what?
Like Turtles.
Okay. I gotta go get something to eat.
Griffin's heard too many hour-long conversations that I've had with him about this. But I started getting into Ninja Turtles because I was on a plane in 2014 to New York City, and I saw the Michael Bay live-action super muscly Ninja Turtles movie, and I was like, what in the heck is this? This is so wild, right? And I'd seen inklings of them throughout my childhood, whatever. But that was the first thing that I watched it completely, and I was like, this is weird, and I took a liking to it. And at that time, the Nickelodeon, the 3D show that was directed by Ciro Nieli was still on.
Yeah, that show's fantastic. Yeah.
It was great, and it was just about to roll into season 3. So I remember tuning into it and I was like, wait, why are they at a farmhouse? What's going on here? And then it kind of just snowballed from there into finding out all of the adventures they have. I'll admit I chose my favorite turtle, Donatello, because I really liked the color purple at the time, but now he's still my favorite Ninja Turtle of all time. And I think he's great. And yeah, I really could go on for hours about it.
That show, Ciro's show, is fantastic.
It
I,
is.
I did an interview with Ciro a couple years ago, and it is, first of all, it's the most listened to episode of this show. And it is like, and I think that my favorite show is the 1987 series, as well as, and I really love that first movie. But I think, objectively speaking, if you take nostalgia out of the equation, the best Turtles show, I think, is Zero's. I think it's that show is for drama, for comedy, like it's a good mix of everything that you want the Turtles to be.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate it. Was really paying homage to a lot of prior iterations of the Turtles with the characters they would put in, with all of the different storylines that they would put in. Because, of course, I love the 2003 one as well. And they were able to kind of spin off a lot of different awesome adventures. But the 2012 Turtles was really great for me to start getting into the entire franchise, because it was kind of like every character,
Best of
every like
everything.
adventure was like a little Easter egg, and it kind of led you down a bunch of different rabbit holes into the entire history of them.
Yeah.
So, I thought he did wonderfully with that. And I just really like the season 3, of course, is the one that I remember the most. But I remember all of the horror movie homages that he would do with those couple episodes in the beginning of season 3, that I just remember being like, wow, if I was like a creator, I would totally do the same thing, where I would just like stick in my own little Easter eggs of things that I like into the franchise. And he definitely made it his own while still appreciating the history of them. And I just really love that show.
And pay like respect, like the best of everything. So you're right. Everything, I like, some things went from the Mirage comics, some stuff came from the 87 show. Like it really did come from all these different ways, and kind of almost like
they started referencing the 2007 movie with the Night Watcher. Like they put in things about that. When the Michael Bay Turtles came out, there was this joke that Mikey made about like kissing Megan Fox on a rooftop, and I just was loving every second of like how they were able to pull in little details like that like no one, like only like the Turtle fans would really like go, oh, there that is.
Is that the one you sent me that clip of ages ago where the like all the different art style turtles meet each other? Like
there's a bunch of crossovers of like where like the different versions of Turtles meet.
Yeah.
But, I know they did that in like season 4, I want to say, of the 2012 one. But they did that
in 4 and 5.
Oh, they did, because they did that for like the finale of season 5, right? They did the oh god, I used to be able to list like the episode names and everything. I'm a little rusty.
Before the war.
Now, Griffin, what is your? Do you have a favorite Ninja Turtles? Anything or anything like that?
When I do interviews, it's usually for like the general folks, the general public. It's not for a specifically Ninja Turtle tuned crowd. So I don't know the Ninja Turtles as well as Anna, and I feel like I'm gonna say something like, isn't Donatello the red one or something, and get shot. So I'm going to preface this. I know he's not. I'm going to preface this by saying that I'm not as familiar as Anna, but I like the Jim Henson film. I don't like The Secret of the Ooze, but I like the first one a lot. When we met Kevin Eastman, and this is rather anecdotal, but when we met Kevin Eastman, we interviewed him. We locked him in the library after our unveiling, and he said that Jim Henson was like the nicest person he ever got to work with, which I thought was really cool. And I feel like that sort of feeling of respect for the Turtles, but also just sort of a sense of wanting to have fun really shines through. And that was that 91 that film came out?
1990.
1990. Yeah, I think that really shines through in that film. I think it's great. And I really like the original Mirage run of comics, especially that first one. Kevin, at the event, Jetpack Comics gave out Kevin's like original, Kevin and Eastman's and Peter Laird's original #1 copy. And I really like those little stubby designs that the Turtles have in the first comic, with those really sharp lips that go over the front of their mouths, and those really sort of stubby arms. They kind of look like thumbs. I really think that's interesting. I don't know if there's something about that. It's like Charles Schulz on acid or something.
Quick, Griffin, who's Metalhead?
Oh, he loves music.
I love this.
Loves Van Halen. That's who he is.
I'm remiss if I don't talk about too. Like, in addition to the marker and the manhole cover, now Dover Museum, which Jesus Christ,
Woodman Museum.
The Woodman Museum.
The Woodman Museum. Goodness. The Woodman Museum is right in front of, or right next to the historical marker, and they now have a permanent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles exhibit, or they will be soon. Very soon.
Well,
Yeah.
if only I knew somebody who could tell us all about it.
So I am, yeah, I'm a little bit closer in on what's going on with the gallery. I believe they have opened it up as of this month. They're looking for more things to add into it, of course. But I think I'm going to be able to help them out with a couple of poster designs that I've done for like the historical marker unveiling and things like that. But yeah, the Woodman Museum, even when I came over there, in November and to New Hampshire, and I was like a deer in the headlights trying to take in everything that was happening. Everyone at the Woodman Museum was fantastic, just great hosts all around. So it was great to reach out to them and to be able to give some of my artwork over to display in the Ninja Turtles gallery. And it's great, again, just to see how much the town is embracing that history of turtles.
I'm gonna not to correct you. The exhibit opens August 10th and 11th.
So not this month, the next month.
But there's something interesting about that, which is that it's an extension essentially of an exhibit that they had when we unveiled our markers.
Yes.
So so when we were there, and I'm sure you visited it, but at least Anna and I did, where they have this little. The fun fact about the Woodman Museum, the oldest building in all of New Hampshire is the Woodman Museum. And now it houses a Ninja Turtle collection, which is great. And so I think that building's in the 1670s. And so the back room has everything. It has 1,000 different drawings, 1,000 different crumpled up ideas, 1,000 different artists. It's not just Eastman and Laird. It's all sorts of really very fascinating stuff. And I think I'm of the impression that it was such a success when they had it last year that they're making it permanent. And of course, Anna, as you mentioned, is going to be a part of that legacy.
Yeah, I had Jonathan Nichols on. He was like maybe 3 episodes before this, whenever this one's going to be, to talk about that and announce that. Yeah, they're going to have like comic art, cells from the cartoon, a whole bunch of cool stuff. And it's so great that like a whole bunch of all these 3 things kind of work in concert, which is nice.
Yeah.
And if anybody here is listening to this and is going to go to Granite Con, all of this stuff is like a stone's throw from the Granite Con Manchester, New Hampshire headquarters. So like if you go to Granite Con, which is basically the annual Turtle Con, right? It's like the largest collection of turtle fans and artists, whatever. And if you go this year, all this stuff is really close by, so you can check it all out at once, which is awesome.
And it's free. Pretty sure it's free.
Yes, which is very cool. Before we, I also want to talk about. So Anna, you were at Portsmouth MiniCon. How awesome was that? Because I was there as well, and it was. Oh
God, it blew me away. It was crazy how cool that was, and it was my first ever comic convention I got to go to. So that was the best thing to ever have happened to me thus far. It was really great, and I got to be a vendor there because we at the historical marker unveiling in November, we got to meet the owner of Jetpack Comics, Ralph DiBernardo, who's just the most wonderful, nicest guy in the world.
Ralph is the greatest person. He's so great.
He really is, and so I got to talking with him and happened to stay in touch with him after the marker unveiling was all done, and when the 40th anniversary comic was kind of getting talked about and there were covers starting to come out, starting to be created by some of the Ninja Turtles artists through the years, he reached out to me and he said, hey, would you be interested in doing a cover for the 40th anniversary or the Ninja Turtle #1 comic re-release? And invited me to go over to Portsmouth again. So I've been to New Hampshire twice when I'd never been there before in my entire life before. And it was really, really great.
And your cover is awesome. It's, the red mask turtles against the shredder, but it's a really, I'll include it in the little image thing of what I have, but it's
Does
very
it have Metalhead on it. Guessing that's a no then. All right.
Who is what was did you have a certain like highlight or somebody that you really wanted to meet that you got to meet there or anything like that? Because it was an awesome collection of turtle people there.
It was insane. I think I was blown away to see everyone there that I had kind of seen through my childhood on like the titles of like these covers. So I was like, I really was kind of starstruck going around and being like, oh my gosh, that's the guy like from the comic that I've been reading for years or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember getting to meet Ken Matroni, who I think was right next to you at the.
Yeah, Ken and I've known Ken for like I was right next to Ken, and Ken like he was like it's funny, I've been friends with Ken for years, but I never met him in person before that, so that was a super exciting one. So
he was one of the sweetest guys to talk to. And I remember I was there. There was another girl at the con, Vero Stewart, who was there with me, and we were both kind of starting out. Yeah, she's awesome as well. And again, super nice. I think Ralph has a talent for picking out people that are also amazing people to work with. But anyways, Vero and I were talking to Ken, and he was just telling us all of these stories about when he was working at Ninja Turtles, when he was working at Pixar, you know, how he figured out his brush techniques, and just all of these crazy stories of just getting to work in animation. And I remember both of us were just sitting there like, oh my God, tell us more. Like, we'll absolutely sit here for hours.
In addition to being the Archie Turtle comics artist for about half its run, he designed Emperor Zurg from Toy Story, which is pretty cool.
Oh my God, that is so awesome.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. See, I keep learning new things, and it's just like Ken's the best. He's awesome.
He really is.
And he's so friendly, you know, and so amicable. That's just, you know, some people that I've met are, for one reason or another, like a little bit colder to talk to, I think, just from years of like having to deal with fans. And I think it's just so impressive how amicable he was to just talk to us about all of the ins and outs of what he's experienced. And Chris Allen was great too. I was seated right next to him at the convention, and he was so great. It was his birthday, I remember, during the convention. So it was really fun to get everyone to sing happy birthday to him, and that was awesome.
Yeah, it was such a great con. And that particular section of the Archie artists, those two guys was the best. It was so cool.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna the last thing I wanted to cover. So I wanted to ask you this. I asked you this for everybody. Anna, we already talked about who your favorite turtle is. You said it's Donatello. Do you have a favorite? All right, so I guess I can ask. Do you have a favorite version of Donatello, and why is Donatello your favorite?
Ooh, okay. I would probably. That's a really hard question. I would have to say, like, off the bat, I really like the 2012 Donatello. That's just the guy that I grew up watching and really liking. I thought I was always so impressed that he knew like everything from like inventing robots to like interdimensional physics to being like the team medic and everything, like, and the electrician and everything. I was just impressed by how much he knew, and I thought that was super cool, because I could make an entire argument about how I think that the Ninja Turtles could not be successful about anything without Donnie. But
I completely agree. Donatello's my favorite too. That's completely correct.
I really like it. I think that the rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, what Andy Siriano did with making Donnie more sarcastic and more confident in himself and his abilities, was a really refreshing take on him. And it took a little bit of getting used to. I remember, well, partially because I was just salty about the 2012 series ending, but I remember getting finally into the 2018 version and going, okay, this is like a version of Donnie that's definitely different than I've ever seen him, but I really can appreciate it.
Griffin, favorite turtle and why?
Probably Metalhead, and that's well. I spend too much time with Anna Chavez. Even if we live on the other side of the country, we spend too much time speaking to one another. So through osmosis, I suppose that mine has to be Donatello as well, because she's always talking about Donatello. You'd think he's real, but I like Donatello. I think that the most recent Mutant Mayhem film, I know that sort of fans are kind of split on him being wicked super nerdy in that, or how they're kind of like really teenagers in that, like with a capital T, you know, saying Riz and Skibbity and all that. But I really think that even if it isn't, this is the thing with Turtles. I don't know if your fans are going to hear me say this and be like, how could he possibly think that? He must be brain dead. I promise.
I mean, I'll say this though. I think, and I love that movie. I think it was fantastic. I don't know what any of those words are, right? I think that Donatello should be into K-pop and like
Yeah.
I mean like that.
It tracks with where we are in modern times. That's what nerds these days are into.
Like, the first, and I love every iteration, and that's not my favorite iteration. Like I think it's really good. It's just not my very, very favorite one. But like by hiring actual teenagers, it was the first time ever they actually felt like kids, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think maybe I'll bend the question just a tiny bit that I really like. We were talking about the Jim Henson film before. If you could consider Splinter a member of the team per se, I think I think that he really is really cool in that movie. I like the sort of wisdom he instills on the kids, and the fact that he just kind of like. There's a lot of times where he just like talks to him. I remember there's some scene where he's like, "I'm gonna die one day," and that's cool. I think that that's cool. I appreciate a sort of father figure or a mentor figure in a piece of media that doesn't sort of feel like, and especially characters who are literally teenagers, doesn't feel like he has to sort of soften things or say like, "Oh, one day I'll be at the big dog pound in the sky" or something. He's like, "All right, I'm gonna die." I think that's a pretty cool dynamic, and Donnie's cool in that movie too. So there you go. Whatever Anna said.
Donnie's great. Anyway, thank you both for being here. Anybody who's going to Dover or anywhere near it, especially if you're going to Granite Con, check out the historical marker and the Woodman Museum and the manhole cover, all that stuff. It's all great. But especially the historical marker. Thank you guys for being here. Super great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Cowabunga, yeah.
Get right with the shell shock pizza kings. Can't stop these radical dudes. The secret of the ooze made the chosen few emerge from the shadows to make their move. The good guys win and the bad guys lose. Leonardo's a leader in blue. Does anything it takes to get his ninjas through. Donatello is a fellow, has a way with machines. Raphael's got the most attitude on the team. Michelangelo, he's one of a kind, and he knows where to find it when it's party time. That's a splinter out of every single skill they need.